This week's episode is brought to you in partnership with Zero Procure. The guys at Zero Procure have walked a mile in the shoes of many of our listeners from the world of hospitality. In fact, they have over 70 years of collective experience of working in the hospitality industry, and that'll probably be me getting into trouble for making them feel old. I really recommend speaking to them to ensure you're working with the right suppliers at the right price. There's zero cost involved. Just click on their link in the show notes or visit their site at zeroprocure.com/podcast. Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is David Connell, General Manager of South Lodge Hotel and Group Operations Director at Exclusive Collection. Coming up on today's show, David highlights a world-class skill set.
Didn't do a lot apart from flood the building on several occasions.
Phil overuses the word wobble. If somebody's having a wobble, why are they having a wobble? Can we help you through the wobble? And David tells us his typical quiet night in.
It's free-flowing Dom Perignon, there was vodka luges, the whole shebang.
All that and so much more as we chat through David's story and journey so far. I think it's fair to say that David has had a brilliant career so far with two main messages. You don't need to go looking for growth, it will find you if you get your head down and focus on doing your best work. That, and there's really no need to move companies if you experience that growth and keep getting challenged. There are also many other nuggets in our chat, and a massive thank you to David for his time. As always, a sneaky reminder to keep sharing the podcast as far as you can. Let's get the world talking about our amazing industry. Enjoy. And a big hospitality mates welcome to David Connell.
Thanks, Phil.
How
Nice
are
to
you?
be here. I'm very good, thanks very much. Great to be here.
Good. Where are you?
Currently at South Lodge. So
Okay, nice room.
Yeah, it's all right. Yes, it's all right. It's a change of office for me. So my role change meant I needed to change the offices around. So
Right.
I've got more of a hot desk than a proper office these days. So but that's
Right,
fine.
okay.
It works well.
Yeah. So is that an official office or is that just a space that you have?
Yeah, so it's within. This actually used to be the old accounts office, and we flipped it all around. So they sort of taken over my office. Although I've always ended up with the most tiniest offices wherever I've worked within the Exclusive Collection. They've always tended to be shoeboxes. So actually, I've got an air conditioned space here, which I've never had before.
Wow.
Which is great. So
And a window.
and a window. Actually, yeah, which is really good. So my time tends to be split between now within my group role, it's across all the properties within the group. But I've got an office at Penny Hill Park, and sort of a hot desk / office here at South Lodge, and then usually one day a week I'm on the road somewhere at one of the other properties.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And well, that's quite a new role, right? So I suppose, let's just get this one out of the way very, very quickly. Just tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So my name is David Connell. I'm the Group Operations Director for Exclusive Collection. A collection, for those who don't know, Exclusive is a collection of 6 privately owned hotels. People know Penny Hill Park usually quite well, the home of the English rugby team, and then the South Lodge, Manor House Hotel at Castle Combe, Lainston House, which is just outside of Winchester, Royal Berkshire in Ascot, and Phantoms Hall in Ware in Hertfordshire.
Fantastic. Yeah. And you've not long taken the role of Group Ops as well.
Correct. So yeah, I've got 20 years with Exclusive. So I joined Penny Hill Park a long time ago, so just over 20 years ago as
Nice.
restaurant manager. So my background is very much F&B. I was restaurant manager at Penny Hill, and then it sort of happened from there, kind of naturally, weirdly, sort of restaurant manager, restaurants manager, food and beverage manager, operations manager, deputy GM when I left Penny Hill after 7.5 years. Did an interim role as GM at the Manor House at Castle Combe, was 4.5 months. Then GM at Lainston for just under 3 years. Then GM at South Lodge for what has been 9 years, just over 9 years. And then this role literally within the last 2 months. So, bit of journey. Journey so far.
Not off. Yeah. Well, before
Yeah.
you got into Exclusive, there's obviously a backstory to fill in as well. So take us all the way back. We were just talking before we turned the microphone on about little bits and pieces of your kind of pre-hospitality journey. I find that quite interesting. So take us all the way back to the beginning. How did you end up in hospitality in the first place?
Yeah, well, like so many, by accident, really, I think. So I initially left school. So half of my family was sort of from a hospitality background. My brother was a chef in the army. My mother was involved in hotels. My uncle was involved in sort of hotels and restaurants. My father was in engineering. And, like so many, leaving school at the age of 16, I'm kind of going, what do I do next? Sort of thing. I didn't really have a very clear idea, but I thought engineering kind of appealed. So I was fortunate to be given an apprenticeship to become an engineer or tool maker in Worcester, where I'm from originally. And sort of was going through college, do the whole technical college piece, doing my city and guilds and so on and so forth. And it was all fine, but it was on the good old days of 25 quid a week sort of apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And my uncle had a restaurant, as I mentioned, so I had the opportunity to go and work for him sort of on a casual basis just to earn some extra cash. So I started that when I was 16, absolutely loved it. Immediately just thought, oh, this is pretty cool. It's great fun. Met some great people. And went on doing that. And I did that sort of just over a year, got my city and guilds and everything else in engineering, and just thought, this isn't my life. I loved it. I love the practical side of being an engineer and making these tools and various different things were great. But I just thought, this isn't where I see myself. So I carried on working in my uncle's restaurant, sort of on a full-time basis. Got into my first hotel when I was 18 as a waiter in a hotel in Worcester called the Founds Hotel. And again, just loved it. The social circle, the people I was working with quickly became my friends.
Yeah.
The hours were long.
The play was hard.
The play was hard, and that was fine. But I had a great time. But of course, progression happens quite quickly, as we all know. So quite quickly progressed within that business, from sort of waiter to head waiter in the restaurant to doing duty management shifts, running private banquets and weddings and events and all of that kind of good stuff. And absolutely, again, just loved it. Then I had an opportunity to go and work in the south of France as a sort of working holiday for 6 months at a restaurant.
Nice.
Which was, it wasn't as grand as it sounds.
Okay.
but it was a beautiful part of the world. It was in Provence, so it was very nice, and it was kind of again just a really nice place to be. So worked down there for 6 months, came back, worked in a couple of hotels, one in Malvern Hills, which was fun. And then I had an opportunity to move to Egham in Surrey. So there was an opportunity came up at the Runnymede Hotel in Egham, and I went there as restaurant supervisor, if I remember rightly, and then did 4.5 years there until I had an opportunity to go and work in London. So I took an opportunity at the Oxo Tower. And I was there for 3 years as assistant restaurant manager at the Oxo Tower. Had a great time. It was, if I'm honest, the easiest job I've ever had in hospitality.
How so?
Well, I think it was just the shift patterns were really easy. So it was 5 days out of 7, but it was, you sort of did 2 earlies, 2 lates, and 1 all day shift.
Right.
So Sundays tended to be my all day shift. So I'd get in for 11 and I'd be there till midnight. That was my longest day.
Right.
The rest of it was pretty much regular hours. It was 9 till 6 during the day for the early shifts. And it was 5 till midnight, 5 till close on the late. So it was pretty straightforward. And being in London, it was kind of one of those environments where we just had a lot of people. So I had plenty of people to do the job. It was back in the days when service charge made up wages.
Okay.
So this was pre-changes. So, the base salary was pretty low, but the service charge split was pretty high. So you did okay. But it was one of those. So you could have a lot of people because the wages were relatively small.
Right. I suppose also it's a really busy venue when it's
very.
Because its position is amazing, and it's obviously incredible. Elevated up into the sky, and you've got the views over the river. So people just want to go there, don't they?
Absolutely. So we were doing 240 covers a night in the main restaurant. The brasserie, which was next door, was doing 500 covers a day. I mean, it was bonkers.
Yeah.
And the views from there, everybody wanted to come and look over St. Paul's Cathedral and the river and everything else. It was just stunning. So yeah, it was fantastic. And I had the privilege of being there for Millennium New Year's Eve.
Oh, nice.
Which was great.
Great view.
Great view. Really great view. The fireworks literally outside on the river, which was fabulous. The River of Fire thing didn't really happen. I think we all missed that.
Yeah. I love your mindset there around. I had the privilege of working New Year's Eve because you have front row seats.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, getting home was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those environments. You just wanted to be there. That we were charging ridiculous. I mean, if I remember rightly, it was £1,000 a head to go for dinner that night. But it was free flowing Dom Perignon. There was vodka luges. The whole shebang. And it was hugely busy. But it's where you wanted to be because that was a hot ticket right there on the river, watching the fireworks. Counting down to the millennia. We all thought the lights were going to go off, but
the world was going to end, wasn't it?
Exactly.
That bug that's still out there somewhere.
Exactly. So and it was great. So I mean, I love that. And then not living in London, I was living out in Surrey, so it was the congestion charging kicked in, and I was like, hang on a second, I'm not paying 15 quid a day to drive into work, and all of that kind of stuff was going on. So I was like, look, it was great. Anyway, this very tiny advert in the Evening Standard for a restaurant manager at Penny Hill was there, and initially I ignored it, didn't think much of it.
Back in the days where we used to put adverts in
Back,
newspapers.
back in the days, yeah. My other half saw it and said, "Oh, look at this! You should apply for that." I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sure. I'm in London now. I quite like it," and all of that. Anyway, so I randomly applied. I had a phone call with the HR manager at the time and said, "Tell me more." Went and met with the then GM, the late David Broadhead, and Paul Thompson, who was the operations manager at the time. And yeah, I thought, okay, well, this is kind of nice. Wasn't really sure what it was about, but anyway, I got a phone call to say they'd like me to come in, and thought, well, let's give it a go. I've always had, hotels has always been my background. Although I went to London to the Oxford Towers as a standalone restaurant, hotels has always been sort of there or thereabouts, and always where I've enjoyed my time the most. I think probably because the variation of it, the change, it's just multifaceted and just different. Oxford Towers, I said, it was effectively the easiest job I've ever had, and it was one of those where I enjoyed it. I love the people. It was great, but it was as close to becoming a kind of same in day out experience as you could possibly have got.
Right. Yeah. And where'd you go next? Kind of thing.
And where'd you go next?
Yeah.
And that was the thing. And I like, the variation, what happens in hotels, we were speaking previously about every day being different. No 2 days are exactly the same in hotels, and that's I think was the bit that really appealed to me. So yeah, I knew of Penny Hill when I had a look around. Thought, yeah, like this place. The spa at that point was just coming out of the ground. The footings were literally
crikey.
I literally watched the spa at Penny Hill coming out of the ground.
And what a spa it is, by the way.
And what a spa it is.
Yeah.
Exactly that. So it was great. And of course you had the England rugby team were there as their sort of their base camp. So it was great. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time. I had a great time there.
What I really love about the fact of you kind of getting that job is that it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but at no part of your psyche was saying, Pennyhill Park's a place I want to go work. This is it. That's where I've always wanted to be. It was kind of a happy accident almost.
Yeah, it was. And to be perfectly honest with you, Phil, my almost my entire career has been that way. And I think if I was to say the reason why, I think it's because my philosophy, my mentality is you work hard and good things will happen. You don't have to chase it. If you're doing the right thing and you're good at what you do, I'd like to think I'm reasonably good at what I do, then things will come to you. It will happen for you. And sure, I could have gone chasing job after job after job after job, and I'm sure I could have done, and probably would have had a good career. But I've always had this mindset, and I've said this to you before, but I think I've always said with Exclusive, I said it would be one of those days when the day comes that I'm bored, I'll sit down and I'll write my resignation.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be bored. I don't, that's not part of me. That has no appeal in me whatsoever. So, unfortunately, it's a company that just, you don't get bored. There's always something going on. There's always something happening. And that's exciting. So it's exciting to be part of. So, my time, I didn't join Penny Hill with any great intention thinking I'm going to join this company and be here for 20 plus years. It was a case of, okay, let's do this job now and see what happens and see where it goes. It was the same when I joined the Runnymede. It was the same when I joined the Oxford Tower. I never had a time frame in mind. It was like, for as long as I'm enjoying it, I'm happy.
Yeah.
That's important. And the day comes and I'm going, well, it's not really, it's got reached that time, it's reached that time to move on. Then I'll start thinking about something else. But I've never been chasing a big target. Even to this position, I never caught up with Danny and said, Danny, what's my next step? It was a case of, Danny, I was perfectly happy as general manager of South Lodge. We've done a lot here. We've achieved a lot. Still on a journey. I still think there's still more to do, but I was still enjoying it. It was never, a case of, Danny, what's next? He approached me and said, he wants to slightly restructure the business and he'd like me to consider this role. And I went, great. You know what? I've worked for this company for long enough. Danny, you tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, that's what you want me to do, Danny. I'm more than happy.
What I really love about this is the fact that there's, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're coming back to your time as restaurant manager at Pennyhill Park, there's essentially no grand plan yet. Maybe there's not even a grand plan now. It is a kind of, as you say, it's just been about getting your head down, crack on, work hard, do the best you can. Other people then hopefully see that at some point, and opportunity presents itself anyway. Did you ever feel like, was there any point you go, I'm aiming towards becoming a hotel GM, or I'm aiming towards becoming a multi-site ops director?
So, Danny and I had a conversation, this is going back now probably 16 odd years ago. And I sort of said, look, all I want to know is, where do you see me going? What, I didn't really, at that point, I had no real concept of what his thoughts were about me at all.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It wasn't, he wasn't GM of Penny Hill. He was the managing director for the company. Why should he? But I thought, well, look, I just want to know where the future is. It was getting to that point. It was, okay, I'm 4.5 years, 5 years in, or whatever it was at that stage. Is there a continued future with me in the company or not? And if he saw me as being, having a future with exclusive, fantastic. If he thought maybe not, then I'll be like, okay, fine. Then I know where I stand, and we'll start that conversation about looking for alternative opportunities.
Yeah.
And he was very honest with me. He said, I wasn't top of the list at that point for future GMs, and I said that's okay, because I wasn't expecting to get one at that stage, and that's absolutely fine. You've got a list, and that's great. But at least I knew I was on it. And that was all I was after, really. And that was like, great. Now I'll crack on and get on with the job. And when the time comes that he feels it's the right time, then I'm sure he'll speak to me. And that's kind of what happened. So yeah, and other than that, I've had, like we all do, we get contacted by certain people and approached about opportunities and roles. And I'm, yeah, but my job isn't done yet, and working for exclusive, I think the beauty of it, and I think it's probably one of the main reasons why I have stayed as long as I have, is because we are given huge amounts of autonomy. We shape this business, wherever I've been, whether it's at Penny Hill, Manor House, Lainston, here, that's got my DNA in it somewhere. You get that there's a fingerprint of me on that project or on that initiative or on that change to the way the business is now being run.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful. That's really powerful, because it is more than just a job. It's more than, yeah, I am, on the payroll like everybody else. But the reality is that I feel like I can make a difference. If I didn't feel like I could make a difference, then I wouldn't do it. And this role, again, is just sort of opened the door and said, look, can I make it better? Can I improve the company as a whole? If I felt I couldn't, then I wouldn't have taken the opportunity.
Yeah.
So, because it's a new role to the business, the other general managers in the group now reporting to me, and that's a lot of responsibility. And I need their buy-in, but I need to prove myself to them to say, look, guys, that this is the way. These are the things I think we should be doing. And if we do that and we see an improvement in the company, then that's beneficial to everybody.
Yeah.
And very much of the opinions, I'm not here to tell them what to do. I'm here them to so we can all collaborate together better, work together better, communicate better, and all work for the collective growth of the business.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, and I can help support that, then it makes the job worthwhile. Otherwise, then Danny will be having a tap on the shoulder, give me a tap on the shoulder, going, "This isn't quite working out," and that's not what I want. Obviously, not what anybody wants. So
no.
So I generally feel like I can make a difference, and if I can and do and demonstrate that, then that's important.
I think you obviously clearly do, because otherwise Danny wouldn't have tapped you on the shoulder in the right way, would he? And said, "Look, I'm thinking about this, and I'd like you to do this," and here we are. You are now in the midst.
Absolutely, and it's a big deal for him, right? I mean, that's he's kind of had that role and responsibilities. Obviously, as managing director, he's had it previously where everybody reports into him.
Yeah.
So to be able to let go of that and go, I'm going to give this over to you is a big step. It's difficult. He's been doing it for a very long time, as we all find it. We're all in our own little way slightly control freaks.
Yeah.
And letting go of stuff and giving other people the opportunity to shine is difficult. It's difficult. So we have a defined sort of job list, his and mine, and
that'll probably take time as well to kind of balance out. As there'll be things I would imagine that you've defined the roles, but then something else happens, and all of a sudden that comes on your plate, and vice versa, and whatever.
And we've said, at some point we're going to tread on each other's toes a little bit, but I'd kind of rather that than there be a big gap in the middle that neither of us are doing.
Yeah.
So at least this way, we're both covering it or whatever. So I'm sure that'll happen. I mean, touch wood, it hasn't as yet, but I'm sure it will happen at some point.
Yeah.
And we're grown ups. We'll have a chat about it. He'll tell me to butt out or whatever, and that's fine. We've known each other for a long time. So the opportunity to have those kind of conversations and speak freely with each other, I think is, I think that's part of the reason why I'm in the role, is that I've never been frightened to sort of challenge Danny on certain things. So, which, that's just me. That's just the way I am. If I disagree with something, I say I don't agree with it.
But he strikes me as somebody who needs or kind of wants people like that around him. He doesn't want people who just go, "Yes, Danny, that's fine. I'll do that."
Exactly. I think that's really important. We all need that, right? We all need somebody to have that conscience on our shoulder saying, "Are you sure?" Just to either ratify or to not, or to change a decision. So I think we all need a little bit of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm tend to be quite vocal about certain things. So.
Yeah. Very
Not
good. Well,
necessarily good.
yeah. Well, as long as you're still on speaking terms, that's that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great stuff. So I just want to go back a little bit before we move forward again. France. Now you talked about the fact that it sounded, maybe better than it perhaps was, but I kind of wanted to understand perhaps what you felt that experience actually gave you, because that's a right outside the comfort zone move, really. Did you speak French at this point? Was it just a case of, that sounds great, I'm going to give that a go?
It sounded great, and I thought, give it a go. And I didn't, I didn't need to speak French, so I didn't speak a word of it. I studied German at school, so going to France with barely enough words to order a coffee or a beer was probably about as far as I could get.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I've got a huge vocabulary having come back from 6 months in France now, but it was an opportunity that presented itself. It was kind of like a working holiday. I'd never sort of done it. I'd left school and cracked straight into work and did all of that. So I didn't really have that. And I'd sort of finished the first sort of hotel job that I had. The kind of the reasoning behind it. There was the hotel, it was previously privately owned. It was then taken over by a company and a management contract. They don't exist anymore. It's called Resort Hotels. Didn't really like the process. Didn't like what that was about. It just felt different. And I guess that's happened twice in my career with another hotel company that was taken over by another management company, and I didn't really like it very much. So I think it was just kind of like, actually, I'm not happy with this. This opportunity came up to go on sort of this working holiday in the south of France. As I said, it was a restaurant that was catering to holidaymakers going from the UK to Spain, most of them actually. And it was en route. So most of the guests were all English anyway, so it didn't really matter. And where we were located, typical sort of lazy English, I guess, in terms of languages, was that, well, they all want to speak English, so let them practice their English, and I'll just sit here and listen. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of one of those.
Yeah.
So, but it was great fun. I loved it. It was 6 months, getting into loads of debt because the pay was absolutely rubbish. But you know what? You sort of get to go to the beach quite a bit and do all of that stuff. So it was fun. It was something different. It was a real step out. But I sort of got that out of the system, got back to the UK, and it was like, right, now I need to find out what I'm going to do moving forward. And I found this little job in the Malvern Hills. I'm from Worcester originally, so Malvern Hills, this opportunity came up, sort of house manager role. And it was a sort of the owner and his wife. The owner was the head chef. His wife didn't do a lot apart from flood the building on several occasions. But you see, again, one of those, you kind of did everything. I was there at first thing in the morning, crack of dawn. You're sort of, you're doing all the bedrooms. You're getting the restaurant ready for lunch service. You're getting the bars ready. You're doing the laundry. You're doing everything. And sort of getting home at 2:00 in the morning, and then back in the next day to do it all again. But I did enjoy it. It wasn't long standing. While I was doing that, I had an opportunity as a restaurant manager at another hotel, which I took in the sort of. It was bigger. It was a bit more me, really.
You're still quite young at this point, I guess.
Oh God, yeah, I was 21. So it was I was 21, but it was great fun, and these opportunities kept presenting themselves, and again, got growth, got progression quite quickly, met great people, got lifelong friends who are still lifelong friends now. Funny enough, I'm going to one stag do on Friday. Yeah, that's just the industry, and it's just everywhere I've gone, I've loved it, and I've not. When I've moved on, I've never moved on because I'm particularly unhappy. It's just, it just felt like it was the right time.
Yeah. And
as I said, I've just not reached that time with exclusive at all. And at this stage in my career, probably never will.
Yeah. It's an interesting one from an external recruiter's perspective, is that there's lots of things that you get taught down the years around. Nobody ever tells you just to use your common sense around things, by the way. It's always about, well, if somebody stayed too long in that place, maybe they become stale and all of those sorts of things. But actually, it's about having conversations with people and understanding why somebody stayed there. Because, in your case, you're 20 odd years with exclusive now. Why would you leave? You've constantly been challenged. You've constantly been growing. You've constantly been given new opportunities. And let's face it, you guys might not know this because you're within the business, but the reputation of the organization is immense as a place to stay, but as a place to go work as well.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot, I think a lot gets written around the fact, you've got to keep pushing for the stars, but like, the stars can come to you if you
absolutely
just crack on, as you say,
Yeah.
and you know, and get on with the job at hand and do the best you can at that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's 20 years with one company, but it's 4 hotels that I've worked at in those. You know, I've
Yeah,
been at
and
4 hotels
multiple different
in that
roles as well.
and multiple different roles,
Yeah.
and you know, and again now with the new role, I'm all over the place. So you know, I get to
Not literally.
well, no, not literally, but well,
A little bit, yeah.
Geographically, yes. Metaphorically, perhaps not. But it's just different, and there's been no reason to do anything else. And if I felt I had a need to do something else or a reason to move on, then I would do it. It's just as you said, you know, when I came to South Lodge 9.5 years ago, my first day was a meeting with the local planners and the architects about the spa building that we were designing for here and a plan to open. And that project took 6 years to get to fruition, and it was all encompassing. You know, you very much felt part of it, but you know, it goes back to what I was saying before about it's got my DNA all over it. And Danny Danny and I would basically worked almost hand in hand on that project to deliver it amongst obviously a far wider group of people with designers and architects and everything else. But it was just, it's still, when I walk into it, I'm still incredibly proud of it. You know, it's been a great success on its own, individually on its own. You know, the membership is full. We've got a wait list for a year to get into that building. Wow. You know, we created a fantastic restaurant in there, which, you know, I believe to be an amazing restaurant. And I'm immensely proud of it. And we're now on the next phase of we want to build, you know, we've got planning in at the moment to build luxury lodges on the estate. You know, we've just planted a vineyard in May. I've got 5 hectares of vineyard here, which, fantastic. You know, it's another project which is coming down the line. You know, we're not going to have a drop to drink until 2028, but it's almost like I'm hooked in already because it's like, well, I'm not going until I get that.
Yeah,
I get to open that first bottle.
Now.
You know? Yeah. So, you know, but again, it's just, and we've got other plans and projects about how we develop it. I mean, I know I'm incredibly biased about South Lodge, probably because I've been here for 9 years, but we've done so much. But the opportunity and potential of this property is phenomenal. Yeah, and I truly believe in it. But as a collective group, you know, the opportunity you mentioned, you know, the properties are stunning. You know, we're very, very fortunate to have amazing hotels in our group, filled with incredible people who just love what they do. You know, we they just do, and we have phenomenal guests, and you know, all of those kind of, you know, we all get the ones that maybe aren't so phenomenal, but we all get, you know, incredible people, and over the years I've had the opportunity to meet so many interesting people that in another walk of life I would never have met. Yeah, and had the opportunity to meet, and I don't get starstruck on people at all because they're just people like everybody else. But you know, it's exciting to meet people. I mean, from A-list movie stars through to royalty to various different, you know, sort of walks of sports stars, the whole lot. And it's, yeah, I just don't think you'd meet those people in any other walk of life. No, on the regularity that we sort of do. So we're very fortunate. Yeah, very fortunate. No, that's fabulous. I mean, I think you've just touched upon something I'd love to cover as well, as to kind of what the future holds. I mean, that vineyard project sounds amazing, and you know, you've got the land, right? So put it to use, as it were. Absolutely. Yeah. Is it a collaborative mindset approach to things when it comes to projects like that? It's not a directive from above. It's a kind of, you said you're part of the DNA of that property. So does a lot of that come about because you're so experienced with the property, your team are so experienced with it, so you can kind of come together and go, right, what next? What can we do now? Absolutely. I mean, we're very. I mean, so South Lodge is located. It's literally overlooking the South Downs. So it's, you know, it's in West Sussex, the heart of English wine country, really, and English sparkling wine country. So, and we've been fortunate. We've had a long-standing relationship with Ridgeview English Wines, which are literally 12 miles from us in Ditchling, and it was something that it was actually Lewis, who's the executive chef here, who's been here for a long time, mentioned it quite a while back, actually, saying it was, you know, perfectly placed for it to become a vineyard. You know, we're on a hill, we're south facing, it's, you know, it's everything you'd want it to be. And then I think came up again, possibly in conversation with Ridgeview. The way Ridgeview operates is they don't own huge amounts of their own land for vineyards and grow their own, but they collaborate and they cooperatively work with lots of landowners and they manage their sites for them. Right. So it seemed like a perfect thing. So, well, actually, we've got this relationship. Let's have the conversation. So we got an agronomist in who came to check the quality of the soil and everything else we needed, and feedback was very positive. So, okay, how do we make this work? You know, we're not winemakers. We just don't have the time to do that.
We're wine drinkers.
We're absolutely wine drinkers and wine sellers, but definitely not winemakers. So various conversations happened with the guys at Ridgeview, who are fabulous people. They're just a lovely people. And again, it's a very much a family-owned business, so there's a lot of connectivity about how the two businesses run. And we said, look, let's just do it. It's a long-standing contract, 25-year sort of arrangement in place. They will manage the site for us or with us. But day to day, they'll tell us when the spraying needs to be done and everything else needs to go on. So we planted 19,000 and something different vines in May, and classic champagne varietals of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, as you would expect, with the intentions of we want to create our own sparkling wine for the exclusive collection. So Ridgeview supply us all anyway. We take about 10,000 bottles a year from them as a group. So the way this has been set up effectively is that once whatever yield we get, which we're anticipating to be about 30 tons of grapes at optimum, we will sell to Ridgeview on a commodity basis, some to be determined, but somewhere between £2,000 and £2,500 a ton. They will then produce under license for us approximately 10,000 bottles of our own English sparkling wine, and then we will buy that back from them.
Right. Okay.
So they don't lose out, in essence. They don't lose anything. The remaining sort of yield, which is equivalent to about 20,000 bottles, they will then keep those grapes and they will use them in their own wine. So their Ridgeview, Bloomsbury, Fitzrovia, etc. Yeah. So they don't. So it works really well. Is that they don't lose anything. It's not suddenly that we're taking away our 10,000 bottles that we buy from them. We're not. They're just producing it for us using our grapes.
Yeah. Well, that gives it more kind of provenance, doesn't it, and more story that you can talk to at the dining table, which is fine while it's only 12 miles down the road as well. But when it's been grown just over there,
literally, and that's it. So you look out the windows of your hotel bedroom here, and you can see the vineyard. I mean, that's where it is. It's a great story, and it gives us a lot of opportunities on how we can progress it in the future.
Yeah,
with wine tours. I mean, I think West Sussex. It's not. I wouldn't quite go as far as to say it's champagne in terms of the region, but it's getting that kind of kudos now. I mean, the wines that are being produced here are phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And so we wanted our own version of that. First of all, like everything we do, it has to be great, and it will be. That's why we're working with Ridgeview, because we know that they will make great wine. I'm sure we'll have a bit of a word, a bit of a say in the actual blend and the final sort of product, but we'll definitely take the lead from them. And it'll be great. I mean, it's going to be it'll be a vintage product every year, single estate vineyard, all the good stuff that you would expect to buy and you'd pay good money for in any restaurant. If you're in Champagne, you'd be paying a lot of money for that. So it's a really exciting process, and we'll get the teams involved. So we'll certainly have to when it comes to harvest, I'm sure. But just the whole process of the blends, we've got a lot of very professional, whether it's sommeliers, restaurant managers, food and beverage professionals within our organisation across the estate, and we want them to be part of it.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity. Who gets that opportunity? It's very rare. So it will be collaborative. We will bring people together, and yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm really excited about it. I mean, the time frame, we'll get our first sort of harvest 2024, but it'll be quite small, probably about 2,000 bottles equivalent, and then from sort of thereafter, it'll get up to about 30,000 bottles equivalent. So we'll first drop to drink 2028 when done properly. So we'll get some grapes next year, and we'll have a play around what we want to do with that. But the other thing we're then looking into is how we can use the byproduct, so the waste product from the grapes, into a skincare range.
Ah.
So how we tie it back into the spas for health and well-being and that's really important. So there's a property in Bordeaux called Caudalie. So they have a skincare range. They use all of the grape must from Bordeaux, from Chateaubriand and so on. But they also have a fantastic hotel, spa, and 2-star Michelin restaurant. And so you're kind of going, okay, that's a really great sort of example of what this could become.
Yeah.
Or maybe a slightly larger scale. So that's really exciting. So that's kind of the next phase. And of course, the whole sustainability thing is a big deal for us. So, we achieved our B Corp status as a company last year, first hotel company in the UK to be awarded that. So the sustainability side of our business is really, really important to us and something we're very passionate about. So, what we don't want to do is make wine and then create all this waste. It's kind of, well, what do we do with this waste? How can we re-engage with it?
Yeah.
Get it back into this circular economy idea of how we can get their use. It's not easy. It's a really difficult process to go through because there's a lot of great must. How much we need to put into products. Ridgeview already work with, there's a gin producer called Foxhole, I think they're called, and they basically use the grape must and they create gin from that. So, you can see there are those opportunities around. You've just got to explore them. How do we do that? I think we'll want to make a grappa of some sort for the Italian connection within the business, and we'll try and work out how we do that. So it's a really exciting process, and it will open up so much more.
I'd say then it leads to this moment of what's the next project? What can we do with that could lead to XYZ? Are you familiar with a guy called Douglas McMaster, who's a chef in London, place called Silo?
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
He has this line that he used when I was lucky enough to get him on the show, and he says that waste is just a failure of the imagination.
I agree.
And when what you're just saying there, if there's a byproduct, a waste product of something that you're doing, okay, what can we do with that waste product? If we were all thinking like that, we'd be creating so much really interesting things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Silo used to be in Brighton, of course, so it was relatively local to here.
Yes, yeah.
So I agree, and you're right. What they're doing is phenomenal. I think it's one example. You've got Silo, which is obviously a restaurant in itself, and it's they dictate the menu, and that's how they without. It's maybe slightly easier for him than it would be for a hotel that's producing huge amounts of stuff. So, but the fact that they've done it and getting great recognition for it and deserve all the praise they're getting for sure. We need to find a way. How do we do it in our business? And it's it's a fine balance because you don't want to strip away the luxury, and that's a challenge. Just even things like single-use plastics and doing away with single-use plastics, it's an absolute minefield.
Yeah.
Especially now because supply chains are obviously all over the place, and it's very easy to get caught out. I think the sort of the green economy or it's the greenwashing is an opportunity for others, and actually you have to dig a lot deeper. It's not just a case of what's it say on the surface. The surface level, okay, it's made from this, okay, but how is that made? I think the classic one is stuff made from bamboo, and you kind of go, oh look, this is made from bamboo, isn't it wonderful? It's like, yeah, but then what's the backstory of that?
Yeah,
is it all produced in China and then comes on a big shipping container? What's the impact then? We're not factoring that in. So there's so many things you have to look at. And there isn't always an answer. It's just, is it, and sometimes it's just a case of, look, is it better than what we're currently doing? If the answer is yes, well, okay, well, it's a step change. It may not be the final solution, but at least it's a step change.
Yeah.
And then we go again and we go again and we go again. And I think there's a lot of that sort of stuff which we need to do. So, we've certainly been far more focused on it within Exclusive. Are we the best of the best? No, probably not. But we've committed to a journey now. The B Corp status is, it's a legally binding contract. Danny changed the articles of business to make it so. And so we have a target. So we have a journey to go on, and we have to get better every single year because you get audited every 3 years, and you definitely don't want to go backwards. So So it's it's now forming part of that strategy for the company. That's now on the agenda item, guys. That ain't coming off. That's every decision we make, we have to think about the sustainable credentials of it. Is it improving us as a business? And it's difficult because sometimes you see something that you want to go, oh, that'd be great for our guests. That'd be great for our guest bedrooms or whatever. And you go, maybe not. It's not great for the environment. It's not great for the planet. So let's not go there. Let's find the alternative.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because, one example is going back to our spas, and, we have, every guest when they come into the spa, they get a pair of Exclusive flip-flops. And that's for health and safety reasons as much as anything else, because we don't want people slipping on wet floors and all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But these flip-flops are effectively single use. So what do? And try and find an alternative that you can't. You literally can't. So, we have managed to find a way now. There's a company we work with called Reskinned. The flip-flops are collected. They're then, we encourage guests first and foremost, please take them with you. Keep them. You can wear them again and again and again. So they're not single use. But any that are left behind, they then go off to this company called Reskinned, and they're shredded and they're used in the construction industry. So they get mixed with MDF fiberboard, effectively, and they will be used to build buildings. So,
they're not going to waste.
They're not going straight to waste. So, they have a longer lifespan than perhaps they would have otherwise had. I mean, the ideal solution would be you don't have anything that's made from plastic, but at the moment there is no alternative.
Yeah, we're not there yet, are we? That's the thing.
We're not there. So
small steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Same principle. I think around. There's a big thing around electric cars. There are possibly part of the solution, but they're not the solution.
I 100% agree. I don't think they are the long-term solution. I always worry about the wastelands that are being created to remove the lithium, and the impact of all of that. And it's kind of going, okay, it's a better solution than petrol and diesel. Yep, it is, but it's not, as you say, it's not the permanent solution. What will be? Who knows?
Indeed, that's probably for people beyond our pay grade to figure that out.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about hydrogen, hasn't there? And I think hydrogen probably is an even better solution. But of course, the worry, I think, is that we're all driving around in hydrogen bombs. Which probably isn't so good for the planet. So,
no, indeed, everybody remembers that Zeppelin that
exactly.
that blew up. But anyway, yes. Well, have you got, from your time in your career so far, have you got any stories, any funny stories that you could share with us?
I've been thinking about that, and I'm kind of going, probably loads. I mean, I think the one that I think was probably funny for most everybody else apart from me. So it was kind of my first Saturday night service at Penny Hill when I was in the restaurant manager, and restaurant was nice and busy. It was buzzing, and I was opening and serving a bottle of Laurent Perrier Rosé. Something I've done thousands of times, think nothing of it, absolutely fine. Open this bottle of Laurent Perrier Rosé, and for some reason I had these brand new shiny napkins which I had in my hand, and I transferred the bottle from one to the other, and it literally went straight through my hand, landed on the floor the right way up, did not break.
Right.
However, all of the contents of that bottle decided to come out through the opening at the top of the bottle, into my face, all over me and all over the ceiling. I couldn't open my eyes because I had Laurent Perrier Rosé in my eyes, which could be worse things in the world. But
luxury problem.
But the entire restaurant, as you expect in these situations, were just basically clapping and cheering as I was dripping with Laurent Perrier Rosé. And I turned around, and when I could eventually open my eyes again, and Paul Thompson, who'd employed me as he was operations manager there, was stood in the doorway and just looked at me, gave me a look, shook his head in disapproval, and walked off. And so no help whatsoever.
That'll help.
So that was probably my most embarrassing moment. But these things happen. It's fine. These things can happen. It's not the end of the world.
I think you might be a pioneer on the show. I think anybody that's ever served a table anywhere has got a story about dropping glasses, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody has a story about dropping a bottle of champagne and having its contents empty into their face.
And I have no idea how that bottle didn't break, because it was a marble floor. So
right,
I still to this day have no idea how it didn't break, which is probably a good thing that it didn't break. But anyway, So I wore it rather than anything else. But that happens. It happens. Yeah. We these things happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
you're part of the exec committee at the Master Inn Holders.
I am, yes, privileged to be.
Yes. So talk to us about that.
So this stems back. So back in, again, part of my journey with Exclusive, really. So back in 2005, I was lucky enough to win a scholarship. So Master Inn Holders, for those who aren't familiar with it, are sort of, they're a sub-part of the Worshipful Company of Inn Holders. So if you think about the Worshipful Companies of London and everything they did, so going back hundreds of years, they were the governing bodies of the industry that they ran. So whether it's Goldsmith or the Drapers or whatever, and they would dictate a lot of the sort of your rates, the standards, everything across your industry. And of course, all of that's been diluted over the hundreds of years. And so they created, in a way to get back to their core, which is their industry, they created the Master Inn Holders many, many years ago. And part of the charitable services is what most of these companies now do, was to offer up some scholarships to up-and-coming hospitality people, perhaps. And I guess I fit the mold to a degree. I mean, I said to you earlier, I didn't go through university, so I hadn't had a formal education in hospitality. Everything I've got is sort of learned, and so it was presented. The opportunity of these scholarships was basically sort of like those who need a helping hand, in the industry, who were going to benefit from it greatly. So I'm a charity case. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So there's quite a robust application and interview process to go through to be awarded a scholarship. And the scholarship for me was to go to Cranfield University or Cranfield Business School. And it wasn't hospitality specific. It wasn't at all. Business is business. And effectively I had 18 people on the program with me from all walks of life, from industries all over, and from internationals to UK and everything else. And it was a true education for me and something that I've never forgotten. But a big part of that, when you've had that, it's about how you then give back to industry. And I've never lost sight of that. For me, it's really important that I help pass on my knowledge and help to promote the industry as a whole. How do I get more people to join the industry, to recognize it for the fantastic industry that it is? And so when you have gone through your scholarship process and you've gone to, you then become what's called a St. Julian Scholar, which is another sort of subsidiary of the worshipful company, if you like. And we meet regularly and have networking events and so on and so forth. And I've been active part of that for the last 16, 17 years. Master in Holders itself, again, to become an MI, to become a Master in Holder, you have to go through an application process and an interview selection process to get it. And again, I was fortunate a few years ago to do that. You have to be a general manager for 5 years to qualify for that. And then I was invited to join the executive committee. And again, I was very honoured to be approached about it, to join, because I firmly believe in it as an organisation. I firmly believe in what it's trying to do for the industry. And as part of that, I was then asked to head up the scholarship committee. So almost full circle again, really, in terms of I was a recipient of a scholarship back in 2005. I'm now the person who effectively awards those scholarships.
Brilliant.
For other people, which is great. And the process is kind of robust. You have to go through, again, it's an application process, and you have a sifting committee, and then you have an interview panel. But I've always found that doing the interview days is the best day of the year for me. The opportunity to sit with people who are passionate about the industry, as passionate about the industry as I was and am, to talk to them about their careers and where they see themselves going, and just to see that energy is so rewarding. I've done it with various different levels. There's another sort of educational program called the Master in Hold Aspiring Leaders program, which I've been fortunate to be part of as well in the past. And every year doing the interview and selections is exhausting. It's a whole day doing sort of 36 interviews, but it's just massively rewarding. And I've loved doing it. I've, built, sort of almost worked my holidays around those days to try and make sure that I'm there for it. And it's, just really, really passionate about it. And so for me, getting young people coming into the industry and helping them to get to where they want to be on their career and to develop is, almost as important to me as doing the job that I do on a day-to-day basis.
I couldn't agree more.
And so it's, whenever I have an opportunity to talk to these guys, whether that's through mentoring and I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I can only give the benefit of my experience. But whether it's mentoring or interviewing or talking to these, I love it. I think it's a great opportunity. So I think there's a lot of good work done.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's, especially in the midst of what we're in at the moment, it's never been more important, I think, than to have an ethos of giving back, and to have an ethos that, we've got to protect the industry together as a unit. And what's one of the things that we do to that is to make sure that people who are coming in and giving this industry a go have got all the tools they need to be successful.
Agreed.
And a lot of that is around having the right mentors and the right people. And this is the one thing one of the many things I love about this industry is that, help is everywhere. You just ask for it and it will be given. There's so many people who are focused on making sure that if somebody's having a wobble, why are they having a wobble? Can we help you through the wobble? All of these sorts of things. It's, well, actually, it leads me on to probably a nice question to move on to from that, is that what would be your top 3 reasons for somebody to join hospitality in the first place?
Great question. I think for me, it's the variation of the role. You join hospitality and no 2 days are the same. We sort of touched on it earlier, and there are no 2 days are alike. The variation, the variables that you have, the people that you meet, from one day to the next, whether it's people you work with or people you get to meet as guests and customers, it's phenomenal from that perspective. And you mentioned it. I think I don't know an industry like it where you can literally pick up the phone and talk to somebody in a competitive organization that will give you advice and guidance and literally tell you what you want to know. Yeah. We are such a convivial industry. You only have to go to, whether it's the KTIS or the AA awards or whatever kind of awards ceremony that you go to, and it's kind of, you're walking in a room which are like meeting your mates, and it's everybody. I mean, I remember sitting at one once and going in and going like, this event is never going to start, because nobody would sit down because they're all going from table to table to say hello to everybody. And And I just don't think there's an industry like it.
Yeah.
You know, they're your competitors, but they're your friends, and it's almost like it's one big family. And you generally don't get that anywhere else. I'm sure of it.
I couldn't agree more. And the thing that I will always come back to, and I have Danny to thank for this, is that he very kindly invited me to be on his table at Back to the Floor this year.
Exactly.
And if ever you needed an insight into the camaraderie that exists and the kind of unity that exists amongst the industry, as you say, everyone that's operating tables is, there's friendly competitiveness going on amongst each other, but at the end of the day, everybody's having a glass of wine together and having a good old natter.
Absolutely, and we're all taking the mick out of each other, and and it's. I remember because I very much looked after that table, but whereas trying to keep those guys.
You're okay. I'll give you a good 7 out of 10.
That's very good. Although I was probably let down by the team, to be honest. On that particular, I'd never blame the team for anything, but on that particular occasion, it was. I mean, it is because it is supposed to be. I mean, it's an incredible event, as you know from being there, and but coming together to raise that kind of money. I mean, £250,000 for Hospitality Action is not to be sniffed at, and as you say, we then all go to the bar together afterwards, and we have a beer and a glass of wine or whatever, and it's just an incredible environment, and with wonderful people, because we are by our sheer nature. If you can't be hospitable, then you're in the wrong industry
for sure.
So we are, but it's I think it's just heartfelt. I've never really experienced any politics in it or any they're saying this because of this, or it's genuine. And people who genuinely want to come together to help each other, to support each other. You kind of see it. You'll get a hotel if you've ever had a situation where you've had a problem with your hotel and you've had to find help somewhere. You call up your local competitors and go, look, I've got a problem. Can you help? I've got this and this to do. And they're just like, yeah, tell me what you need. And we're there for you. And even though you are competing with each other.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing, and I can't put my finger on it.
But it shows you that
wonderful.
We all win that way, don't we? Because it's just this reciprocal kindness. I mean, it always has a habit of coming back to help you when you need it the most, and vice versa. If somebody offers that to you when you need it the most, you're of course going to reciprocate that without question.
Absolutely.
When the shoe's on the other foot. So it's a wonderful industry for that, for sure.
It is. We'll do anything for each other. But I think going back to your original point, I think the other reasons. They are transferable skills. It can take you around the world. It really can. And that's priceless life skills, really. And I think it does. I think life skills is key. It does give you those. Yeah.
I don't think we play up to that enough, because there's a lot of, effectively, if you think about your day-to-day role all the way through your career, there's often probably in pretty much every single shift that you've ever run in your life, there's been a problem to solve. And so we take it for granted that what this does to you as a human, in terms of it just gives you tools to get past problems and work past issues that come your way. And by the very nature of that, I think it makes us one of the most resilient industries in the world.
And I think that's key, because it does help resilience. I mean, as you say, you get a problem, you deal with it. You've got that experience behind it. So if anything else happens in life, you go, okay, well, I know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's not going to knock me off my stride too much. And yeah, I think you're right. It does. It just brings you those skills that you wouldn't otherwise potentially get in other walks of life. So, and then, as I said before, just the people you meet. The people. Some of the people I've met, I've been very fortunate to meet some incredible people. Over the years, celebrity status. A lot of them politicians, royalty, TV, film, all of that stuff. And I don't get starstruck about anybody, but it's they are just normal people, but it's just wonderful to be able to meet those people and to engage with them and to have those kind of conversations. These are mega stars, they are some of these guys. And, sometimes people think they don't even have the right to be in the same room as them, but they're just normal people.
I know, that's the thing, right? People forget that. They still go to the toilet and they still need to eat and drink.
Yeah. And you think, I think I remember meeting Nicole Kidman once and thinking, I just had this expectation she was going to be a complete and utter diva. And she was the most loveliest person you'll ever meet. She was just respectful and lovely and friendly and warm and everything else. You go, okay, that's just not what I expected at all.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, well, that's great. I now, I appreciate it better as an actor now than I perhaps otherwise would have done, because I just thought maybe she's just, a bit stuck up, but she absolutely wasn't at all. It just brings you to a level that you realize. I mean, we've said it before, many occasions, that you develop these sort of champagne tastes on beer money. There's an element. there's an element of that, but you do. I mean, I've been invited to events that I probably shouldn't be at, and the opportunity to be at with some people and meet royalty and all of that kind of stuff, and you go, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Pinch yourself. Cool. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And you do when you go, yeah, this is pretty cool. I remember I had an opportunity. Well, this goes back a long time now, but 1998 to be specific. And it was during the World Cup, and the owners of the hotel were going to all of the World Cup games. And I got a call from my GM, and she said, "Can Tracy, my other half, could you get hold of your passport?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" She said, "Well, you're coming to the football with us tonight." I'm like, "Sorry?" And she said, "Yeah, there's a spare ticket to go to the England-Argentina game."
This is in France, wasn't it?
In France, exactly, yeah. And in Saint Etienne. So I was like, "Oh, well, I can probably make that work. I can make that work. That's fine." So
I'll make it work. I'll make it work,
right? So I've got my passport. So I've got to get to Northolt Airport. Okay, right, fine. Don't know where Northolt Airport. Anyway, let's get to Northolt Airport. Private jet sitting there waiting for us on the runway. Pilot comes out, so sort of does a meet and greet. No passport control or anything like that. This is pre 9/11, obviously. So
yeah,
all of it different now, I'm sure. Got on board, flew into Lyon. Had cars waiting for us at Lyon to take us to the football at Saint Etienne. They waited for us at the game, and of course, that particular football match, for those who are interested in football, obviously was probably one of the most famous England football matches ever. Really, it was the David Beckham getting sent off, Michael Owen wonder goal, all of that kind of stuff. And
should have won that game.
We absolutely should have won that game.
Yeah.
And I remember walking into the stadium and just seeing blue and white shirts everywhere of the Argentinian supporters, and thinking, "Oh dear, this could get really messy." Yeah. And literally by the end of the game, it was so up and down all the way throughout. But by the end of the game, we were all hugging each other. It was an amazing environment to be in. Yeah. And thinking, actually, there's me and these Argentinians, and we're all hugging each other. But what an amazing game of football! It wasn't tribal. It wasn't, nasty at all, which you would expect it to be. But actually, it was just a wonderful environment to be in. And then we got on the plane and flew back into Heathrow, and it was again didn't see another passenger on the way back. It was an amazing thing. But I'm thinking, I don't think that would ever happen anywhere else.
No, God, indeed. And it also shows you, I have a very different memory of that game. I was, because I watched that game. Don't let the accent fool you, by the way. I have an English father and a Scottish mother, so I was brought up quite neutral when it came to sport. I'm as passionate an England fan as anybody out there. And I remember I was at college and was working at Blockbuster Video. God, do you remember that?
Oh, well, there you go. You're all thrown back.
And I was due to finish at 8:00 specifically so I could go and watch the football or catch the second half. And I just missed Michael Owen's goal, and then watched the rest of the game. But we were in a pub in Prestwick on the west coast of Scotland, and I think it's fair to say that pub didn't have a lot of pro-English supporters in the pub, and of course it went to penalties. And I remember, I think David Seaman saved the first Argentinian penalty, and I was the only person that cheered in the whole pub. And I remember thinking, right, I think I'll get my coat. And
might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, indeed. So yes, but two very different, the same experience, but very different experience.
Yeah, so it was an incredible occasion, and one I'll never forget. But it was just the opportunity to go through that was, again, I just don't think it would have appeared in any other walk of life. There's no way on earth that would have happened to me. So
yeah,
that private jet was pretty awesome. I've not been on one since, to be fair. So, but it was one to remember. I've ticked the box. It's the only way to travel, but that's. Yeah. But it was great, and it's just those opportunities just to come about in life are pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Absolutely. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. If people want to get a hold of you to learn about you or Exclusive and your future, what's the best method for them to do that?
They can contact me by email if they wish. So it's david@exclusive.co.uk. I am on Twitter. Can't remember my Twitter handle off the top of my head, but they'll find me if they
I'll put it in the show notes anyway, don't worry.
It'll be there, or LinkedIn or whatever. I mean, all the usual sort of ways of contacting are there. So yeah, give me a shout if anybody wants to talk more about anything else. Then I'll be delighted to talk to them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, David. I wish you a very pleasant day ahead.
Likewise for yourself. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it.
No worries. Take care. Cheers.
And there we have it. A wonderful career journey from David with great learning and some cracking stories throughout too. The future sounds very exciting within Exclusive Collection, no doubt. I'll be back again next week with more stories from hospitality, but until then, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.